I've come from Glenburn to come down to speak tonight, and one of the reasons that I do come down to speak is because it's one of the things that I'm really very, very passionate about, very, very excited about. My background is first in naturopathy. I worked for 15 years in naturopathic practice in a clinic, and I now do a lot of different modalities, healing modalities, and intuitive healing work. I was introduced to it about two years ago by Karen. Karen knew how passionate I was about health and wellness, and particularly looking at things from a food base. And that was the basis of my naturopathic practice, was first food and then other herbal and nutritional supplements. Because what I found is that if you can correct someone's diet, if you can get them, steer them towards the foods that are going to support them and sustain them, then that would actually go a long way in making a big change for the health. And then you could tweak with what was needed with herbal and mineral supplements. But what I was also finding was that was getting harder and harder, and because of the fact that the soils are so depleted. And I did ask the question, if the soils are so depleted and we are not getting the minerals that we need from food, where are we going to be able to source these minerals? And I had this voice go, from the sea. Oh, okay. Now I've totally forgotten about that, although I had been introduced to sea mineral supplements and had used them with clients, and they were very effective but very, very difficult to administer because they tasted absolutely terrible. One of the magical things about the sea and about the minerals that you get from the sea is that the composition of seawater is minerally identical to our blood plasma. So there is a direct correlation between the minerals that are in the sea and our blood plasma, which means that the body is getting a match. It's actually getting a perfect match, and the cells are actually then able to recognize it. And it's in the proportions that the body also needs, because that's another important factor. Now, when I first looked at this from a naturopathic perspective, I said, well, if I look at the amount of minerals that are in there, the actual amount of them, it's not what we would consider to be a therapeutic dose. They're micro doses. And so the question was, well, if they're micro doses, how on earth does it work so effectively? How can the body actually use that and heal itself with those micro doses? But this is the thing, in a food source, these trace elements in these microdoses are in perfect harmony, in perfect symphony. So it's not needed, there's not a lot that's actually needed for it to have a huge impact on the body and support the body's own innate intelligence towards wellness. Because that is one thing about the body that sometimes we forget. Our body has its own healing abilities. And in that healing ability, it's also naturally geared towards making us well. It's not geared towards sickness, it's geared towards wellness. And it does everything it can to compensate to keep us going. But in a world where we are confronted with so many stresses and so many toxins in the environment, and also the lack of nutrients that are even in good food, that's where the body's, it's really struggling. And this is where we're seeing in our society so many metabolic diseases or chronic diseases, chronic illnesses of inflammation, immune system disorders, hormonal imbalances, the spectrum across the mental, emotional disorders as well. And that's because our body's not getting those micronutrients and trace elements that it really needs, that the body's actually being able to repair itself, and also too for the communication to happen within the body as well. And one of the really important minerals that's in the seawater, in the sea vegetables, is iodine. You know, iodine is a mineral that is needed in every single cell. It's really important for our neurological function. It's really important for our hormonal function. It nourishes the thyroid, and the thyroid is what is the organ that keeps the rest of the endocrine system in balance. It keeps it all communicating properly. You know, that's the function of an organ, the hormone, is that hormone supplies information. Hormones and enzymes supply information to the body. They trigger other reactions in the body. So, for example, like hormones that are produced to trigger menstruation or to trigger growth, to bring oxytocin, the feel-good hormone too. You know, all those are really, really important. All those are really, really important. And when the thyroid's out of balance, it means that the hormones are getting out of balance too. And then the tissues are getting out of balance, and then we're getting out of balance. So you provide that nourishment with those minerals, then all of a sudden you get a balance going through the whole of the body. The body starts communicating, you start to feel good. And also the cells are responding the way that they need to. And iodine also performs a very, very important function in helping to protect the body against cancer as well. Now there's a process, and we were talking about this before, of apoptosis. Now apoptosis is the destruction of cells that are abnormal, cells that have gone AWOL. They're growing in the wrong place, or they're not completing their cycle. And iodine is really, really important for forming part of the matrix of the molecules that actually destroy those cancer cells. But they also form part of the matrix too for that communication that originally goes to the cell to tell the cell how to form. See, our cells are being interrupted by toxins in the environment. The toxins in the environment actually interrupt that cellular communication. And again, it interrupts our hormone balance. And so as far as a preventative, to have something that has those iodine in it with all the cofactors as well, because it's not just iodine. Iodine works in synergy with a whole lot of other trace elements and nutrients that some of them we don't even have any idea about. You know, this is why we cannot produce in a laboratory what has been provided in nature, because we don't have the full picture, we don't have the full spectrum, but she does. And she produces it in such a way that it's in perfect balance and it's in perfect harmony, and our bodies can actually use it. You know, that's another important factor, is that, I mean, you can give someone some wonderful nutrients, but if their body's not able to absorb it, if it's not actually able to get from their gut and into the bloodstream and into the cells, then you've wasted it. You've wasted the money, but also too, you've just wasted the product as well, because it's just not there. Whereas with this, it takes 20 minutes to get from drinking it to actually being in the cells. And that has to do with the ionic composition of the minerals. Now, someone had actually had a question last week about, well, what happens if, like, the excess of iodine, because we can have too much iodine. Now, the answer to that is that, number one, it's in a form that the body knows how to use, and it's in tiny, tiny doses. When we have been given iron supplementation, it's usually bound as potassium iodide. Now, it's a potassium iodide which can actually cause an irritation to the thyroid. And it's the potassium component, that binding there, that is really quite different to what you would get in a natural form. Remember, we're looking at a chemical form when we're looking at the pure potassium iodide. So it's not absorbed in the same way, and that can cause an irritation. And that's where people can flip into that hyperthyroid function rather than take it from hypothyroid to hyperthyroid. Whereas in an ionic form, because there's also a perfect balance and there's a whole lot of other nutrients that are in it, even if someone is hyperthyroid, the hyper state can be a response to the lack of minerals. So you can either go into a hyper state or you can go into a hypo state. Most people are in a hypo state, and this is evidenced by, symptoms, for example, of low thyroid function is is feeling sluggish, of not having any energy in the afternoon, of waking up and feeling tired, of putting on weight, of feeling depressed, of having heart problems. I mean, all of that relates back to thyroid and iodine as well. So you nourish the thyroid, then it brings everything else back into balance as well. And that's just one thing. And that is why when I first came to the business, I said, Karen introduced me. I was, God, she's so sweet. She really is, because I was really resistant. Okay, one thing about naturopaths, they get a little bit snobbish about the products that they use, because if it's not practitioner only, we don't want to use it, because we've spent all this time getting our degree so that we can get practitioner only products. We don't want to look at that. And we've been sold to all the time that go for practitioner only, because that's what yes, you're practitioners now. And so I ran my practice like that for 15 years. It's like I only had practitioner only products. So when Karen came along with this, I've got this really wonderful juice, and I've found that it's been really, really good for me. I've gone, oh look, I've seen all the juices, I've tried all the juices, and none of them worked. But when I actually got onto the website, because I really trust Karen, and it was a trust, I trusted Karen, I said, okay, I'll get onto the website, I'll have a look. And as soon as I'd opened up the website and saw that it was made from seaweed and aloe, I had that voice come back and say, remember, you're going to be looking to the sea. And I actually got excited about it. There was something about it, even just opening up the information on the web page, that was actually already speaking to me. And my whole body was like, it was screaming out, you need the body balance, you need the body balance. And so I went along to an information evening, and look, mind you, I hadn't even tried the product at this stage. I hadn't even tasted the product, I hadn't tried it. And there were all these people who were sitting around in a circle, and they were explaining how the product had worked for them since they'd been taking it, that, oh my gosh, I'm not getting hot flashes anymore. Oh, my periods have returned. Oh, I'm not getting the pain anymore. And I was like putting it together and going, oh my gosh, this is because it's actually providing the body with what it needs at that foundation level. That's why it's working for all these seemingly unrelated health issues, health challenges. It's actually giving it what it needs to get well again. And I was just there, I was getting so excited about it. And so I actually sat up on that time and actually gave a talk, an impromptu talk about how it was working for each person in that, because it was like, oh, this is like magic, you know. And really, health and wellness, I really believe it needs to be simple. You know, it really does need to be simple. And it's a beautiful start for anyone and everyone, because one of the challenges, if you're not feeling well, and if your energy is really low, one of the last things you want to do is change your diet, change your lifestyle, or even take a whole lot of pills that you have to take this then and this and this then. To be able to present someone with something as so simple and it tastes good, to say, here, try this drink, it's a really good tasting juice, that's really easy. And then that then gives them, then when they start to feel better and they can see a difference, that's when they then are open to looking at other things in their life too. And that could be, it may not even be health related, but it can be other things in their life that they need to improve upon. Because they've got the energy, but they've also got the clarity. You know, that was one of the first things I noticed 2 days after taking the juice, was that it was like a light, the spark plugs had been switched on. I was all of a sudden was thinking so much more clearly. And I noticed that I was able to get out of bed so much easier. And I was staying up till later. I had been going to bed at 9:30 at night because I was just exhausted all the time. And I noticed that I was up at 11 o'clock and I'm still bright. And then I was up until 12 o'clock. And I actually had to remind myself to go to bed rather than going, oh my God, how long can I actually stay up? Because I actually really want to go to bed now. It might have been 8:30. So I noticed really straight away that the difference with it. And also too with a long time, I spoke about this last week, that I'd been losing my hair. Now I tried everything, you know, and my diet's really good. And I had done everything. I went and saw other naturopaths and other practitioners to say, look, can you help me with this? Hormones. And I just thought, well, you know, my sister lost her hair when she was 19. It's a genetic thing, there's not much I can do about it. So I used to come to things wearing a hat. And 2 weeks after taking it, I go to my hairdresser and she says, your hair's growing back. I'm going, really? Because I was feeling it was getting thicker, but I didn't. It was like I didn't even want to go there, because I tell you what, I was getting so distressed about seeing all this hair just keep on washing down every time I can. It's a horrid. It was really, really horrid. A really, really awful feeling. And then 2 months later, it was like it was a really, really big difference. And then, like now, a couple of years later, it's like fully grown back, which was just really, and in fact, it's thicker than it was beforehand. So that was really exciting for me. But what it was showing me was that it was actually nourishing on that deep foundation level, that life force level. And we're talking about your adrenals, your kidneys, your juice, your life force energy, which is really, really important, and because you must nourish that first, because if you nourish that, then everything else then falls into place too. And is it time for me now?
Very good.
Okay.
Want to talk about Baleen?
Oh, sorry. Okay, Baleen. Forgot about Baleen. I'm so excited about body balance. Yeah, I know. Actually, I was really excited about this too. Excited about this is the program that they were speaking about. Now, another thing with my background, one of the things I also did in practice was I was one of the very first practitioners who started ultralight, which I don't know if anyone knows about that program. That was a weight loss program. That was one of the first programs that was introduced to us on the basis of stabilising blood sugar and making certain people had adequate protein, because it's when you're focusing on a lot of carbs, that can actually really upset the whole blood sugar metabolism, causing insulin resistance and whatnot. So I was very, very, very familiar with those sorts of weight loss programs, but this has been the first one that has really targeted, particularly with the B-lean, actually targeting the cause and actually helping the body to reset so that it's producing the correct hormones and repairing the damage that this visceral fat that builds up is causing in the body. Now, visceral fat, which is something called about the belly fat, which is usually around the belly and also around the organs, is what they call, it's hormonally active. So it's not fat that just sits there, it is fat that is actually actively causing inflammation and damage right throughout the whole body. It's causing damage to the cardiovascular system. Most of the problem with the cardiovascular system is inflammation of the cardiovascular system. And this is where you can get also some people who look quite lean, but their body fat composition might be way out of balance, even though they might look slim. And you know this when you're doing any sort of massage and body work. Someone come in there quite slim, but you actually start massaging, and it's just like, yeah, it's the fact that there's around there that is actually creating a silent problem in their body. And once you start with that, what happens is that you get a reduction in the hormones that are your metabolism hormones. The metabolism hormones being those ones that reduce the size of the fat cells, because the number of fat cells doesn't change, it's how much fat is contained within the cells. And it also changes how your body is actually burning the fat as well. Because without those hormones, what happens is that the body stops burning fat as fuel and instead starts storing sugar that's going around the blood, starts storing fat, and then just keeps on building it up and building it up and building it up. And as it's doing that, it means that the body's getting more sluggish as well. So, and you're getting this inflammation occurring through the body. So what the B-lean has done is that it's actually helping the body to start burning the fat, and it's also helping the body become responsive to the insulin, so less insulin is needed. And also too, it's bringing the sugar that's circulating into the muscle cells. So the muscle cells are being nourished. They're all of a sudden now able to bring the energy and build up into the muscle cells but you're also then diminishing the amount of the fat cells. And you're helping the body actually restore that balance of the adenopectin, which is adenopectin is actually the fat burning hormone. But it's more than just a fat, it's also helping your body with its insulin function. Now, why is that important? The reason that's important is that because if your body's having to produce a lot of insulin and you've got still got a lot of sugar circulating in your bloodstream, what's going to happen is that the cells become, the pancreas becomes exhausted because it's continually having to pump out the insulin because the cells aren't responding to it. Cells aren't responding to the insulin, the blood sugar's high. What happens is that's when you get diabetes. And this is part of the reason why we're seeing so many with people with diabetes now. And even people who seem to be quite slim, like, well, they're not really overweight, but their bodies are really having a problem with that keeping the balance, and then that has an effect on a whole lot of other things, including the hormones. So what? And this has been Krista, who was on the DVD. She was really instrumental in putting this product together, and again, this is about trust. I trust Krista's knowledge, her application, and very, very carefully making certain that she would have put everything in there. Number one, that was safe, and number two, that was really effective, and also one that would be in harmony with the body. Because she's got a wonderful understanding of the body, not just on the physical level, but on its energetic level as well. So they've combined a lot of the ingredients that you normally get singly, like the raspberry ketones, the green coffee bean extract, the fucoxanthin, which is the brown seaweed as well, and there's also the mangosteen extract in that as well. Now, individually, all these things work beautifully, but you put them together and it's like, whoa, it's a power pack. And it really does make a lot of difference as far as your energy is concerned too, because it's actually targeting this area, and so it lights your fire. That's what it does. It lights your fire. You know, your will, and it helps you to go into action. So I really like. I mean, I see this product. So this is like helping with the regulation, the whole system, bringing into harmony. This then got all that good energy now. This actually helps you bring that energy into real action as well. And it's really important for how it's actually making you feel on your identity level too, because it's the self-esteem, because it's all around this area. So that's been combined. So that's what you have as the metabolism booster, and then there's the Be Full, which is a protein powder that has vitamins, minerals, and also enzymes in it, 2 plant-based enzymes that help the body to actually break down. It's a whey protein and also pea protein in it as well. So that's a really good thing to have in the morning for breakfast. By having that in the morning for breakfast and having the protein, it actually helps your body to stabilise its sugar balance through the day, so that you don't get that crash in the afternoon. And it also comes with the Be Pure, which you take for the first seven days, and that's actually helping to detox the gut, but also to detoxing the bloodstream and tissues on a deeper level. And I'm getting the times up. So, okay.
We love you.
Thank you.